Hello fantastic people, I hope you're having a great day. Today I will show you how to add jumpscares. Even though this is a 6th video in the Make a Horror Game playlist, if you are just looking for a way to add jumpscares to your game, you shouldn't need anything else. I want the first jumpscare to appear when the player goes through this door frame. First thing I need to do is to add a UI image. I call it jumpscare. Then I change to the game view to see how it looks like there. I will need to change multiple things on the image, so I lock the inspector to make it a little bit easier. Now in my project window I look for the jumpscare sprite. I add it to the UI image. To make sure the images will have a correct aspect ratio, I check the preserve aspect checkbox. Now we need to adjust the size of the image. Yep, that will do it. I want the image to fade out smoothly, so I'm going to add a component canvas group. This will make it a little bit easier to control the alpha. Alternatively, you could modify alpha on the color of the image itself. I don't want the image to block any type of raycast, so I uncheck the interactable and blocks raycast checkboxes. When the jumpscare appears, I want there to be a sound, so I'm also adding an audio source component. I uncheck the play on awake checkbox and fill the audio generator with my audio clip. Now let's create a script and call it jumpscare UI. First I add a reference to the canvas group. This will allow me to control the alpha. Then a reference to audio source. This will allow me to play the sound. Then I create a simple public method trigger, which will set the alpha on the canvas group to 1 and play the sound. Then in the update method, if the canvas group alpha is larger than 0, I decrease it by time delta time times fade out speed. And of course, for that speed I need a serialized field. The larger the number, the quicker it will fade out. If you're enjoying this tutorial, consider helping me to please the algorithm gods. To do that, subscribe to my channel and like this video. This will make them less angry and help to spread this video to more people. Now I add the script to our jumpscare image. And I also fill all the references. Let's see if it fades out correctly. Fantastic! We see that the image is a little bit too small. That's because I used the free aspect for the gameplay window. To make sure the image is scaled properly, I need to change some settings on the canvas itself. In the canvas scaler, we need to change the UI scale mode. Let's use scale with screen size option. And let's make the scaling dependent completely on the height. One more test. And this time it looks better. Let's set the alpha of the canvas group to 0. Now I add a box collider to the door frame and make sure the is trigger checkbox is checked. And of course I adjust its size. Now let's create another script. Let's call it jumpscare trigger. Inside of it we need a reference to the jumpscare UI. This will allow us to call the trigger method. Then on trigger enter method, if the colliding object has a tag player, we simply invoke the trigger method of the jumpscare UI. Let's add the script and fill the reference. Let's test it out. We have a little problem. The jumpscare appears every single time we collide with the collider. Let's fix that. First, let's make sure that the trigger is on its own dedicated object. This object has to have a trigger collider and the script. Then, inside of our script, we add a very simple line. After we trigger the jumpscare, we disable the whole game object. Once again, I check if my player has the right tag. And now it works beautifully. Now let's check how to add multiple jumpscares, each with its own sprite. First, in our Jumpscare UI we need a new method. It will have exactly the same name, however it will accept a parameter of type sprite. Because we'll want to modify the sprite on the image, we need a serialized field for it. Then inside of our new method we simply assign the sprite to the image and then call our old trigger method. Now, to our jumpscare trigger we add another serialized field, this time for sprite. Inside of the onTrigger enter, we have to make sure we are using the new method. To do that we simply pass the sprite as a parameter. Then in the inspector on our jumpscare trigger script, I assign the jumpscare sprite. Then I duplicate the object, move it to a new place, resize it, and then finally I assign the alternative sprite. Of course, on the canvas we have to remember to set the jumpscare image reference. Let's test it out. Fantastic! I hope you found this tutorial useful. Let me know in the comments what other tutorials in the horror series you'd like to see. You can do that also on our Discord server. And meanwhile, have a fantastic day, love you and bye bye!